Haidong! In this video, we're going to talk about 생각해봐 3번's put away. And in English, that's going to be our third put away. So the one that's going to be switching into reverse grip before we come down with a cut. The ending of the form, right, is going to be ending with our focus. We're going to be switching into a reverse grip, and then we're going to be cutting down here. Now, of all of the put aways, this is one that has like the most variation and kind of like different opinions on it, probably more so than any other put away. So let's talk about a few of the major ways to think of it. There are at least 3 variations that I would like to talk about. The first one is going to be the more canonical, right? At least the way that I've been learning recently, so again in the past couple of years. I'll also show you how I was taught it, and a more application-oriented one as well. But let's get started with the more canonical way of doing this. So starting off with our focus, the idea here is what you're going to do is you're going to bring it on the 45, right? You're going to bring your thumb over. So notice my thumb's on that side. I'm going to switch it, so I'm also going to palm it here and bring it back. So notice there are going to be a couple of variations you can do. So some people kind of hold it on this 45, right? Some people bring it back more, as if it's almost like you're going to do a punching motion. But that's going to be kind of like a little bit more up to you or what your master wants. I've seen it both ways, but again, very high-ranking people. So if you want to have it more out this way, if you want to have it more back, you can also do, you can do either, right? And then you're going to cut down and do your Chakgum, right? Let's see that one more time, right? So again, here, boop. So up, thumb over, flip, back, and then come down almost like a cut. It might actually be a cut, but again, treat it like a cut. And then from reverse grip, do your nice fancy Chakgum. But let's first do a couple of those palmings so you can kind of see what you can do. You can do this with a bit of PVC pipe or something like that. Or you can also do this with a screamer stick, a bow staff, joe stick, whatever you have around. But just kind of like hold it in the middle, right? All I want you to do is again, fist, thumb over, and just flip. Thumb over, flip, flip, flip. And you can kind of just keep working on getting used to the idea of that motion. So notice, I am not being like, ha, or anything like that, right? There should be constant contact on the palm, right? Again, the idea behind this is I still have complete control over the sword, it's just that I'm releasing it, right? So this is really the only release in the, at least in the competition terminology that we have. We actually release, we actually let go of the blade, and it's actually going to let yourself grab it, right? So it actually doesn't have any fingers or anything wrapped around. Now you can also do this with a lot of different things, right? So you can palm, you can try to do, almost like a helicopter and do stuff like that. But the idea, right, is just thumb over, palm, thumb over, palming it, palming, palming. It might be easier for you to first learn, is just kind of palming it this way, almost like, again, like pizza. I've never tried to spin pizza, so I'm pretending I know how to do that this way, right? Because this is totally what pizza people do. Every pizza person's like, no, not at all. But yeah, so like from here, again, use your thumb, actually give yourself a little bit of effort. Now the secret is, I guess not really a secret, actually not going to use your thumb that much in order to switch reverse grip. A little bit, right? So you're going to use a little bit of the thumb, but you don't need that much, so you don't need to use it, right? But again, just thumb over, palm, 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 palm. And once again, you can try it with just again like a staff here, palm, thumb over. So what we just did, right? So here, thumb over, palm it, up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And keep going with that, right? So again, just have some fun with this as well, right? So like this is going to be one of those harder ones, right? For you to learn. This one, 4 and 7 are usually the ones that have the most difficulty. Also 10 to a certain degree. But yeah, so again, just think about palming it. You want to have constant contact on your palm, right? But again, have some fun with that. Bringing it back, right? So again, here, thumb over, palm it, cut down. So again, let me briefly talk about that cut down. So you could actually cut someone from this position. It will be a different kind of cut, but you can cut. It's going to be more of a slice as opposed to a cut. And why is that going to be, right? So if I'm cutting from this diagonal cut, I'm going to have that squeezing motion that's going to let me sever, like impact into the skin or into the body, and I can drag it through. I can't have that same impact with a reverse grip, right? I can still have some of it with one hand in the normal grip, but one-handed as well as reverse, there just isn't going to be that heat, right? There isn't going to be that squeezing that's going to be on the impact. This is going to be more of a slice through. I'm going to make contact. It's not going to impact, but make contact and drag across the body. Now you can obviously do a lot of damage with that kind of cut, obviously especially in close range. So this kind of cut is going to be really good, again, close range, but also like when you're throwing, when you're turning, when you're trying to throw someone, all that's going to be very, very useful. So using this at the end of 3 doesn't make sense as a cut, right? So the end of 3 is here. I'm kind of like getting you to either follow me or something like that, right? Or you're dead, right? Or just backing away from a now dead body. Yeah. So in the normal interpretation is you're finishing someone off. You're making sure they're really deadsies. It's like, okay, and then you can put the sword away. There are other interpretations you can have where you're baiting someone in. It's like, follow me, don't hit the wall. And then when I drop my guard, they're going to try to come in. I'm going to be out of distance. I'm going to come in with a dog cut and finish them off that way. But yeah, the main idea is think of it like a cut because everything is going to act like one. Even if this is just a put away, again, getting the blood away from the hilt, you still want that jerk. So you want to like cut, that same pushing motion, and then let your blade fall this way. So that was one way to learn this. This is again the more canonical, so the currently canonical way of doing this. I like the way that I learned it just because it's going to work on really like thinking about many different aspects of the sword. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to call it the Marionette version. So if we're here, we're going to let it drop and rise up this way. Now what I like about this is you can do this as slowly as you want. This version, right, you kind of have this moment of, right, I have very little control of how fast that's going. Versus the Marionette, I can be like, right? I can bring up if I need to. I can just be like, slow, if I want to, right? The idea of this is actually going to be working on your understanding of where the center of mass is on your sword. So mine's about there, right? So think about having that center of mass make a deep U shape. So almost like if you've ever done some of these open hand techniques, down, right? So again, I think this was oxjaw, or this is oxjaw, one of those two. So striking down and striking up, again, you're down, up kind of motion here. So if you're here, drop, so again, thumb over, twisting it as you pull, again, the center of mass back up, again, like you're dropping a marionette and popping it back up, right? So make a deep, deep U shape. So again, here, drop, thumb over, pull it up, here, pull. Now this has less application, right? This has complete and utter control over your sword. Now this is really good for those who have never tried this before. So I would recommend do the Marionette version first and then do the canonical version because once you understand how to do the switch, it's not that bad, right? So again here, palm it, right? Again, perfect control over the blade. Again, you can end here, you can end here, getting ready for a punch or a cut. Either way is fine. If you do end here, normally you do use a little more hip, or you do a spin like in 8. Either way. Again, so I'm actually going this way a little bit. Actually, I'll face you. Right? So here, so thumb over, pulled up. Maybe a little bit of an ankle. Pulled up. Drop and pull. Drop and pull. Making sense? The third version is what I call the cockback. This is the most application-oriented. It's also the most dangerous, so be careful. The idea of this is I'm in close, like I'm under attack, so I need to cock it straight back. So think about this, again, center of mass, again, about miar, right? Pulling it straight in the line back, this way, right? So this is a little more dangerous, right? Because you can throw the weight back and you might actually let go, right? But the idea here is all the weight is following here, right? So as opposed to our first version, you can see the swinging of the blade. Second version, you're raising up the center of mass. This one's cocking straight back into your shoulder. Here, straight back, right? And you can push it back forward. So it's almost like you're, right? So it's here, drop back, cut down. Here, drop back, cut down. Makes sense? Same thing from the other side, right? Actually, I'll face you. I always do that. But here, right? So here, watching the center mass straight back, and then you can cut down with it. Here, straight back, cut down. So again, this is a little more dangerous just because you have less control, especially if you're not used to it. This would be the third version that I would teach if I do teach it. Again, I probably do Marionette, Canonical, and then this one, just because increasing in difficulty, although the Marionette has a lot more more concepts to think about, again, like the center of mass and all that fun stuff, but that's going to be up to you. As usual, let's discuss why we would do this, right? So why switch to reverse grip at all, right? Because in general, like if we're in combat distance, it's probably better just to be in normal grip, especially two-handed normal grip, especially in Sangsu. So why reverse, right? Especially at the end. I mean, one simple thing is that it is just easier to put the sword back in reverse grip, right? So for example, if we're here, I have to push, like again, push my pressure as I am putting the sword away, versus if I am in reverse grip here, I can actually just use the natural flexing of my wrist, kind of like keep that pressure applied, right? So it's just like letting gravity do it, it's letting my natural geometry of my hand do it, as opposed to me actively pushing the back of the sword against my palm. It's just generally easier. It's easier to put swords away, the longer swords away with reverse grip. Hence why we're doing it in Sangsu, right? So allegedly Sangsu is using a really long sword. This would be a good time for you to, again, use reverse grip, which is actually why we do that in 12, which is the one that is most likely to use a longer sword. Right, so allegedly if you have a really long sword, the scabbard is actually hanging at your hip, right, as opposed to like tucked into your belt. But that's going to be the same way, right? So if I have a really long sword, right, if I'm here, I can just like let it drop and then follow the blade here. Versus if it's really long, I have to be like, so notice it's actually really hard to maintain that pressure, and things just kind of get weird, right? I could try to do it this way, right? So a really long blade here, I'd be like, that way. And if you have it hanging, right, you would need to pick it up and then do like this sort of thing, which may not be that bad, but it's not going to be the most elegant. So the simple reason is reverse grip is just so much easier to put the sword away, right? For so many reasons, right? So especially in if I want to have my scabbard down, again, just using the natural pinky, super easy. Up here, super easy. Hanging, super easy. Again, I can just naturally just like squeeze my pinky, and it's always going to follow the angle of my hand. So that's a simple reason, and that's why we're going to be doing it in future forms, especially when we are a little bit more ambiguous about what type of sword we're using. So for example, the Yedo uses it quite a lot, the Bangkok uses it quite a lot. A lot of swords, or a lot of our techniques use reverse grip to put the sword away. With that, our drills, right? So obviously, try all three versions, right? So try the canonical several step version, try the dropping marionette version, try the cockback method, and then try putting the sword away with normal grip and with reverse grip, right? So if you're fairly new or you just haven't thought about this concept before, see how much easier it is to Chakgum in reverse. Because after a certain point, most of our Chakgums are going to be in reverse as opposed to our normal grip, especially in like Bangkok and above, right? So just keep that in mind. So be aware of how much easier it is. See how your geometry, just like tucking your pinky, for example, can do just so much more for our putaways. But as usual, make sure you stay humble, stay safe, and keep training. Haidong